Hi.
Hi, can you hear me too?
I can hear
Oh,
you. Yeah.
good. How was your trip?
Oh, so awesome. It was so
Oh,
great. Like the retreat actually exceeded my expectations, and we had a great group and it was so awesome.
oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So I'm already I've been spending a lot of today planning the next one. So Jamaica, April
Oh,
2018, and then Croatia,
oh man.
July 2018.
Whoa, I want to go there.
Yeah, I know. I know. I hadn't even like heard much about Croatia until like in the last year, and then I
Mhm.
keep seeing things about it, and people are always like, "Oh, I want to go. It's so beautiful," and the pictures I've seen are just amazing.
Yeah,
And
like Dubrovnik, right? Is that the beautiful medieval town that's there on
oh,
the
I don't even
ocean?
know. I don't know.
It looks amazing. I'm probably messing up the name, but yeah, it just looks like it's from a dream almost, you know? Mhm. Oh, I lost you. Are you on mute now?
That's weird. Okay,
Oh, there. Now you're back.
weird. That happened by itself. All right. So who do we have here? Madeline, and who's calling in? 484.
That's me. This is Becca.
Oh, hi, Becca.
Um, Hi. And Stephanie likely won't join. It's her birthday. I'm actually just
Oh,
leaving where she is for her birthday gathering, but her
oh,
sister's in town and she was
okay.
thinking about it, but also feeling pulled to be present and maybe
Oh,
could catch
yeah.
up with the recording.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for leaving early to join us. Or was it done?
No, it's still going. They're at a Korean spa, but
Oh, wow.
I just
Oh,
stopped in for the dinner part, and my sister's in town too, so it's fitting it all in, time
Cool.
bending as possible here.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So we are going into our month 2, and this month is all about Dharma, and it's the element of fire. And fire, fire creates light, so it's very much has to do with our vision. And fire is an upward pointing triangle, so there's a directionality with fire, and so our purpose gives us a real sense of direction in our lives. And so dharma or purpose, it can be kind of weighty, like it can feel very serious and very important, and sometimes um, a little bit kind of looming, like, oh my gosh, I got to figure out this big giant thing. And and I don't want you to get caught up in that kind of thinking, because first of all, it's something that takes time and can take years to even really get clear on, and it kind of morphs as we kind of go through our lives. I'm just gonna mute just for the time being. Yeah. um so yeah, and so I'd love to hear, what is the word dharma or purpose, what does that mean to you? And so if anyone wants to chime in. I know it's a big question. If anyone wants to be bold. Yeah, go ahead. And you can just unmute yourself when you want to.
I think of Dharma, I guess. I mean, I don't have anything deep to say, but just sorry about the child sounds in the
That's
background.
okay.
I think of it as your purpose, as, you know, the combination of your talents or the culmination of your talents and your experiences coming together to work within the community and within the world, and, or maybe not the world, but within your microcosm to help other people. Maybe
Cool.
it doesn't have to be about helping, but that's sort of
Right.
what I understood it as.
Okay. So yeah, so for you, Dharma is very much like connected with being in service.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Hey, Shauna. Hi. So awesome. Yeah. And did someone else want to, Madeline, were you going to chime in there?
No, sorry.
That's okay.
I can't see anybody. I'm just waiting
Oh,
for everybody else to
we're
come.
here.
No, I'm sorry, Donna. I was late and I missed the question.
Oh, okay. So I just gave a little bit of an introduction to this month, because we're working on this month is all about Dharma and purpose, and having that sense of that purpose gives us direction in our lives. and how it's connected to the element of fire. So we're kind of going through the elements, and last month was a lot about space element, and looking at our space, our physical space, our internal space. And so now we're moving to fire. So yeah, so if anyone wanted to, the question I asked was, what does Dharma mean to you?
Oh,
So
I can.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Was that me?
Yeah.
I can't see anyone. I'm in the dark.
Oh no, that's so weird because we can see you.
Okay. I have a very strong feeling about Dharma, and I really believe that we are all here for a certain reason. That I do believe that's why we're here and why we're living. And it doesn't even have to be one particular thing, but when you talk about fire, and when you can feel that fire burning inside of you, like in a good way, whether it's inspiration or energy, and following that path.
Yeah.
You kind of know when you kind of hit that, when the key goes in the right hole, that you're, that's your Dharma.
Yeah, totally.
And then we sway away from it, and then, fumble around, and then the key goes in again. So, oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
I believe that's our Dharma, our purpose.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. That reminded me of something I heard once, that someone can actually kind of light that fire for you. It could be a teacher, it could be a friend, it could be someone that's provided some sort of inspiration and has actually like turned on that fire of your Dharma. And so, which is kind of cool. So yeah, the fire, and how you're relating it to that feeling of like that fire burning inside, that you can really tell when that's there. And so we know when we're on purpose. Yeah. And so, and what Dharma isn't, is it's not necessarily a job or a vocation. Like, it's not necessarily related to what you do for a living. Like, it can be, and it's awesome if it is, but like, don't get caught up in like this meaning, like you're doing the right job. Because it's more about, and this is something that I read today, it's around the clock, 24-hour, every day of your life expression of who you are when you are reaching your full potential. And so it's really about moving towards your potential. And so this month we're going to do a lot of deep dive exploration into uncovering our own gifts and our own strengths and our own passions and desires and dreams and visions. And I'm just going to share some of the, kind of what we're going to work on. And we're reading Code of the Extraordinary Mind. So who's started reading? Awesome. Yeah. Not yet, Shada? Okay. Becca, have you started reading?
Yes, I'm about 15% in.
Cool.
According to my Kindle.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And there's also, go ahead, Shada.
Oh, just to say, I have it on Audible. So
nice.
Yes, just wanted to let you know that. Yeah.
Okay.
Listen soon.
Cool. And he has a lot of supplemental material online. And I just added that to the website today. So it's mindvalley.com. And basically it's complementary to the book. And so he has all these recordings and all these bonus videos that he's created for people that have watched or have read the book. And so that's really helpful. Honestly, there's a lot of that is just repetition. So if you haven't read the book, if you can just watch a few of those videos and you get a good sense of what the book talks about. So I love what he does in that book, is he creates a lot of his own words. And so Brules is bullshit rules. And so one of the things we're going to do a little bit today and throughout this month is identify our own rules. Like, what are those bullshit rules that have been basically leading the way and guiding us, often mostly unconsciously, and really holding us back, so that we can craft our goals in alignment with our personal desires and values, not someone else's. And those rules are often taken on through, he talks about childhood indoctrination is the number one way that we get those rules. So basically like things that we've grown up with. Another way is authority figures in our lives. And just social, social proof. Hi, Baron. Welcome.
Hey. Sorry.
That's okay.
I call these.
Yeah, no problem. So we're gonna really start to like dig in there, and sometimes some places you might hear this as being like the shadow sides of ourselves, like the things that we're just unaware of and unconscious about. And the more we can kind of get more conscious, the more they don't. And I love Brene Brown. She talks about, let me find this quote that she had in her book. Keep your shadows in front of you because they can only take you from behind. And it's basically, if we're aware of our own bullshit rules, they don't take over as much. Or we can identify them and we can be like, oh, that's that. And then I can just choose not to believe it anymore and create our own rules. My teacher, she said something recently that really just kind of rung true. And she said, we're living in a made up universe. And so it's all made up. And he talks about this in the book as one of the things that make human beings unique is that we have symbols, like everything has its own symbols and meaning, and we put meaning on things. And so we can create meaning. And this is very much aligned to a yoga sutra that talks about like an object is empty and the meaning is whatever we give it. And so we create our universe essentially. And so it's deciding what kind of a universe do I want to create? Like what do I want for what kind of a life do I want? Who do I want to be? Like this is all stuff that sometimes we start out thinking it's set in stone, but it's really not. And so coming from this place of being more proactive as opposed to reactive to everything that's influencing us from around allows us to forge our own path. So identifying our limiting beliefs and mental barriers that are really holding us back from manifesting our dreams. And so you're going to challenge a lot of those outdated stories and start to align to higher truths. So deeper truths. And we're going to do deep dive into uncovering your unique purpose and discovering how to make it an offering. And this ties into what Andrea said is how I do believe that too, that our Dharma is not for ourselves. And this is often really helpful, especially if the Dharma is connected to something that you're really trying to share with the world. When we realize it's actually not about us at all, then we can kind of get out of our own way a little bit more. Because sometimes we get too caught up and it's like, oh, what are they going to think of me? And what are they going to think of my stuff and my work? And it's not about you, it's about them. And so when we don't kind of make our Dharma an offering, and again, it doesn't have to be our work related, it just can be how we show up in the world and who we are as people and what we stand for, then we really are stealing from other people. So we're also going to break down, we're going to do a 12-day, 1 day, every day we're going to write our vision in a different area of our life. And he also has some supplemental on mindvalley.com or Mind Valley Academy. He has a whole, I forgot what it's called, but each area of life, he's got a video on it. So you can use that in conjunction with creating your own vision. And then we're going to break down the vision into goals that you can take actionable steps on and take action on immediately. And once you have a plan of action, then carrying out your vision becomes a simple process of following the laid out steps and dramatically reduces overwhelm and procrastination. And it's about stop repeating the same mistakes and make continual progress more rapidly through learning how to score yourself, so keeping track, and creating a structure for your evolution. We're going to start from the ground up and make sure that you have all the ingredients necessary for who you are becoming, and that's who you decide you are becoming. And establishing disciplines. This is another word that he talks about in the book. Disciplines for bliss. And I love that word too. And we did a lot of that work last month. and I think of our daily routine as disciplines. It's like, what are the disciplines? What are the daily practices that help you be happy? And he talks about like happiness as being a prerequisite. You have to be happy first. It's not something like we work towards. It's like, no, you start with happiness, and then it actually creates more happiness and more abundance, more fulfillment, more joy. And becoming, and we're going to keep working on the habits, keep dialing in until they become really automated, and becoming a master of your personal body and work habits so that you're creating an inner and outer container for your own personal growth. And then lastly is building a support system for your goals. So learning how to delegate, recruit, reach out for support so that you stop being the bottleneck in your life and your work. Outsourcing what you don't need to do so that you can work in your zone of genius and not waste any more of your precious time. So that is what we're working on this month. Anyone have any questions? Any thoughts? Any comments? Speechless.
Sounds great. Sign me up.
Awesome. Yay. Cool. So this week, and I know, we're only a few days in, or you got the lesson on Monday, was all about tell your story. So who has, and some of you have done this maybe before, Fiona, Shauna, maybe, who's done that yet? Who's already worked on the tell your story? Madeline, Olive, a little bit Andrea, a little bit Shauna. Yeah, Fiona. Okay, cool. So yeah, and so I was quoting Brene Brown. I read her book Rising Strong pretty recently, and she says, without reckoning, you can't chart a future course. So reckoning is owning your past. And I think the tell your story, and we talked about this quite a bit in the last call, is really helpful to see and like who we are. And it helps connect the dots by looking back and seeing like how everything has led us to where we are right now. And then what's the next step? So we're kind of going backwards, and then we're going to move forwards. So for those of you who have started or have worked on it, like anything coming up around telling your story? Yeah, Madeline.
Yeah, I've written my story a couple of times, but I find that each time I do, it gets more and more specific, and also I think it's a willingness to go into detail and to really kind of drill down to what the patterns are, and then you start to see these patterns emerge. Yeah. Which was really cool this time for me to see how my patterns emerged, so I could make my Dharma or my life purpose so much more clear. Like, it's like, oh, right, that's why I'm so passionate about that. Or like, right, that's why I want people to realize this. Yeah. Like the dots became so much more clear this time than they have before.
Awesome.
So that was really cool how they directly related to my work.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. And again, it's like when we're telling our story, it's not every single thing that's ever happened to us, but we start to see through lines, like what are the big, crux points, those big, and the kind of the hero's journey, those points that really meant something, that was like a major transition or led to something new or a new realization or a new path. And that's what we really want to focus on. And and like the patterns, exactly. Mm-hmm. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is helpful.
It was just very clear.
Nice.
Why I do the work that I do. It just made sense.
Awesome. And it is helpful to do it more than once and to kind of go back to it, because I think it is like anything. We refine. I don't think there's any endpoint ever either. And, for those of us that are entrepreneurs, this is huge, really important to be able to tell our story and, publicly tell our story and be able to tell it in a way that really connects people to you and to themselves and to your message. So, yeah. Becca, are you on here twice now? Because now I have your...
Yeah,
Oh,
my
that's
audio is my
Okay.
phone. And I just got back to the house, so I thought I'd
Cool.
see your faces too.
Awesome. Nice. Cool. Anyone else? Anything coming up around the tell your story? Yeah, Andrea.
For me, it was just, I didn't really get to the telling the story, but I answered the questions, and it was kind of interesting because I'm just looking at it. The question was, who's been the biggest influence in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And I was really surprised it was my dad, because we lock horns. Like we completely, get, head to head every once in a while. I love him to death, and he loves me, and he'll do anything for me, and I do anything for him.
Yeah.
It was just so interesting to remember how much he inspired me growing up, and how much he also purposefully put into raising Fiona and I, and teaching us all the time, always teaching, always intention behind everything he did. So
That's awesome.
that was a bit of a surprise for me. It's something I forgot. I knew it, but I forgot it.
Yeah. Cool.
That was interesting. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. All right. So no one else. And I know some of you, and you haven't started yet or worked on it yet. So, but work on that and then report on, like, let us know how it's going and if any insights are coming up around that. So the rules, like the bullshit rules, we're going to do a little bit of an exercise. So does everyone have a paper and pen handy? And this is an exercise I got from another teacher. And so Shauna and Fiona, you might recognize it. We did it 2 years ago from Pam. So draw a circle, a big circle on your paper. And inside the circle, write down all the things that you want or you want to create more of. So it might be something that you already have, but you either want to keep it or you want more of it. You want to maintain it. So it could be like good health. I'll let you guys give you a minute to do that. And then if anyone wants to share a few of those things, and maybe someone that hasn't spoken yet. Yeah.
Okay. These are things that we want to incorporate in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'd like to incorporate some financial independence for myself, and an ability to respond, not react, and to be more organized with time.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay.
Nice. And so more organized with time, like what's the deeper want there?
Time management.
Like why? Because again, it's like you don't really want time management. But
no.
You,
yeah, that's
you want something that time management's going to give you. So what's that thing?
Ability of flow. I'm just trying to think. That's what I wrote that last, and I was like, that doesn't sound like it. I don't know what I'm trying to get at for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think flow, it's like that sense of just like being able to be
well, for like tasks, yeah, to be present, I guess, but I feel like I'm quite present, but I feel like at certain times in my life, I mean, you know this about me, because a part of me like very, very much struggles, example tonight, right before I got here, I don't have Wi-Fi at our house yet, so I'm at my neighbor's, and there's 1.5 feet of snow on our yurt, and it can't take 1.5 feet, and so I had to go buy a big long thing to scrape the snow off, and it was last minute, I'm 5 foot nothing, scraping snow off this structure and then running up the driveway to come here, and so I find myself doing that quite often. That's just my example of and then my heart rate just goes up, and I'm oh, that's not really healthy. That's not very grounded.
You feel stressed out, or
yeah, it can feel I can feel things don't over. That's the word that is I'm
trying not to use.
Yeah. I part of me has felt like that at times, but you know what, change. I'm so changed. I've really dealt with that really well, but then it will come on strong, and then I do the self-talk of, oh, here I go again. There's that Shauna reappearing, the Vata or the Gong Show or the
right.
I just shoving the computer in my bag, and it's running through the woods with my and at my neighbor's door, I'm thanks. And I feel like I'm kind of known to be like that in my community. So
the opposite of kind of that frazzled, scattered. So what would be the opposite of that?
Well, grounded. And I really am working on that. I really can get into my body a lot better. And that's what grounds me, is I find when I'm like that, I'm in my head. And, I'm just really worried that the structure is going to collapse with all the snow. And it's a worry I don't think is such a rational worry. I think it'll be fine. I really hope it will be. But, and I take on maybe too much, things kind of that's extra that I don't need to really, so grounded. Yeah. I can go into if I'm up in my mind, then it feels frazzled. But if I bring my awareness into my body, which I do in a meditation every day, feels really good, and I feel like I can go from there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So you want more grounding or feeling? Grounding,
embodiment, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Who else hasn't spoken yet? And Linda, we just did an exercise where if you have a piece of paper and a circle, and inside the circle writing down everything you want or want more of. And so now we're just sharing what that is. So anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Olive, Farron, Becca. Okay, Olive.
I'll share. Okay, go ahead, Olive.
Olive and Becca.
I wrote down health for sure, because you probably noticed this. I had a little accident on the weekend. I fell on my face.
Oh.
And I have stitches on my forehead and on my nose.
No.
So it kind of made me realize, how things can change in an instant, and so health is so important.
Yeah.
And inspiration. I would like to be inspired, whatever it is I'm doing, I'm totally into it, and it's just, making me happy and smile and fire inside and that kind of thing. And sense of community, like-minded friends that I can share with, good relationship, finances, and some spirituality.
Nice. Awesome.
Oh.
And Becca?
This is sort of just brain pour here.
Yeah.
So
that's all.
Travel, community, vitality, health, longevity, lightness, humor, love, dance, art, play, delight, wonder, financial abundance or ease. And then I wrote global with an arrow back to community. I really miss being part of a global community. I used to travel more often and have that. And then the last thing I wrote was clear lines between work and life, so that I'm able to focus on where I am and what I'm doing in such a way that time slows down a little and I'm really present with what is.
Awesome. Cool. Anyone else before we move on to the second part? Fiona, you look like you're ready to share.
Oh, you know what's funny is I've been doing this for many years, and I still come back to the same thing.
Yeah.
That is responding versus reacting. So that's always one, and my family is incredibly important to me. So family time is really number one, and adventures with my family. Awesome. So I am pretty lucky. I do try and work on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I was going to say, if you guys hear ones that other people say and you're like, oh yeah, I want that, add it in. Because yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, family, of course. Yeah.
I think that's probably the most important ones to me. And also I always am striving for a work-life balance, especially with kids that are 9 and 11. I just, already at the dinner table, I was asked to go to a Remembrance Day assembly, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can go, and like choosing all the different things. So those are always the things I work on.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now the next part is outside of the circle is what you don't want.
If there's things that we don't want that we likely have agency over, like if I write Trump, does that do anything?
Seriously. Yeah, no, I don't know. You could write that, sure, but yeah, I think it's probably better if we write things we have agency over. So there was talk about a coup, Maybe there's some agency there a little bit, tiny bit. Hope. And so if anyone wants to share, and anyone, if you've talked or not, what you don't want. And it could be something you have that you don't want, or something you don't have that you don't want.
Yeah, I don't want anger, reactiveness, debt, anxiety, doubt.
Cool. Anyone else? Erin? I think I tried to unmute, but now I stopped, so I'll let you do it. Do you want me to do it, or no? You go ahead. Oh no, you're still okay.
Yeah, I figured it out.
Yay.
So I came in a little bit late on the other one because I was looking for paper, but disloyalty, loneliness, struggle, disconnection, worry, doubt.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so when we look at these things, these words, and maybe something that's been a struggle for you, something that you want that you've had a hard time getting, or something that you don't want that you've had a hard time letting go of, like maybe circle some of those big ones, like what's something that's like has a lot of charge. Something that's just been like Fiona and Andrew, it's like that, the whole, you said that it's something that keeps coming up. It's like the respond, not react. So,
Mine too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. It was Shauna and Fiona.
No, yeah.
Or was it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And there might be a Brule in there. There might be a Brule. something that we feel, and this is just an example for, like, let's say money, because that's one that there's a lot of rules around that one, that like money is either hard to get, or it's evil, or it's greedy to want money, or anything that you know, if you just take a look at some of these things, like, because our Brules, there's a little bit of an echo. Hold on, let me see. Okay. We can change them. We can change our beliefs, and our beliefs are very malleable. So we want to know what our beliefs are costing us. Like, what is it costing us to have certain belief systems around things that are really keeping us stuck in certain patterns and keeping us kind of going in circles and repeating, like, just feeling like we're always chasing after the same thing and we're never getting anywhere. Somewhere we're just stuck. And so think of, and if maybe it's something on your paper or not, somewhere in your life that you feel stuck, that you feel like there's no movement, like you haven't been able to make progress, or you've, you know, tried to change it, but you haven't been successful. No movement there. It's just how it is. So just write down one area, or one area of your life where you feel stuck. And now on the back of your paper, or on another piece of paper, write 3 columns. And each column has 3 headings. The first one is the naked reality. So this is the higher truth. The second column is the meaning that you're giving it, the significance that you're giving it. And the third one is the higher truth, the alternate reality that would empower you. So in this area that you feel stuck, like what's like the reality, the unbiased thing that is. And then in the second column, like, what meaning are you, what does that mean about you, or what does that mean about the universe, or what does that mean about another person that's involved? What's the significance that you are giving it? What are you putting, what kind of symbolism are you putting on it? Because again, it's all made up. And then the third one is the higher truth. Like, how could you change that? Like, how could you let go of the old Brule and create a more empowering reality for yourself? And this is a lot, you know, this is very much connected to identity evolution too, because sometimes we think like I'm this way. And so it's always like, say, I'm a reactive person. I'll just take that example. And so we just hold on to that identity. And so we always have this feeling like I'm working on this because I'm a reactive person. That's how I am. That's who I am. And so I'm always working on this. And that's just an outdated belief system. And then we sometimes don't even realize that we've actually changed, or if that thing is not even really true anymore, but we still hold on to that old identity. So does anyone want to share what they wrote down for the area that you're stuck? Yeah, go ahead, Becca. Did you?
Yeah, I want to share because I'm not sure I did this right, so I want some feedback. So the kind of balance between doing, like focusing on what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so in my head, if I had a schedule that I could follow and I actually followed it, I'd be able to be more present with what I'm doing. So I think I have this belief that like taking time to schedule wastes time, like that it's like not as primary or urgent as the other things I need to do in my life. And I'm a little confused about like the meaning that I'm giving it, but just sort of that like.
Well, so the area that you're stuck is that like not having that work-life balance. Is that it? Or what's the area that you're stuck?
Yeah. Just like not having clear delineation between when I'm working and when I'm
right
with my kid or with my husband or in my house,
so
where I could like read a book.
Right. So that area that you're stuck is just feeling like you're not present, or because that sounds like you're when you're not present, it's like you're not present with what you're doing. You're thinking you should be doing something else, or you should be doing something else.
It's partially that I'm not present. It's also that I just like I feel like none of it's ever done. Like there's always a lot more to do. So that, and I think because I think there's always a lot more to do, it's almost like, well, I'll make the schedule late. Like I'm always going to have to make that schedule at some point. So I'll just I keep putting it off. So it's a combination of procrastination and all that.
So is there a belief system there that like about how you are, like something that you, like I am someone who I can't
takes on too much.
Manages
to function.
Like how something that's reflective of you in there.
Yeah, I think I do have a belief about myself of like I like to have my cake and eat it too, and like try to do as much as I possibly can. And that used to work, but like now.
So is it a belief that like you try to do too much? Is that the thing? Like the belief is that I try to do too much, or
I don't know, because I also like to do a lot, so that's why I'm struggling with that piece. But I hear your question, and so I'll have to sit with that a little bit.
Yeah, because again, it's like yeah, I mean, it's all a matter of how we choose to look at something.
Right.
Yeah. Sean, did you have a comment in there? Or? Go ahead.
Me? Oh, I thought it was somebody else.
Yeah, no, Shauna. I thought Shauna was were you going to chime in with?
Yeah, I was going to say something. Yeah. I was going to say that I struggle with this as well. And I have, although I have talked a lot about how I get overwhelmed in this, with Donna, but in the past, and a little bit in this course, is that I do feel like I have moved through it a lot, because I asked myself, like, really, I expressed this before, is like, what's an opportunity and what is shiny? And so I've narrowed in my life really what I am doing. I feel like in the last 3 years, and it seems like I'm able to say no to a lot of things, and like really know what I really want to be doing, and then concentrate on that. This last month, although, has been a struggle, because I have a lot on the go. Like I have this course, I'm mentoring for the Align and Thrive. I just finished the massage therapy program and passed it. Yes.
Yay! Congratulations.
Yeah. And then I have just finishing the craniosacral course. Like there's just a ton of stuff. And then I was like, feeling that way too. Like I just want to do everything, and everything's happening all at once. But I think sometimes it just does. It comes up like this, but then it comes down, and then it ebbs and flows. And then I haven't done your values workshop, but I know when I do it, I will feel so good, because I'll know what I really do want to concentrate on. And I have narrowed it in quite a bit. And I think even with the values workshop, it will narrow it in even more. Yeah. And then you really start, like, you think you want to do all these things, because I see a lot of my girlfriends doing a lot of the things too, and I'm like, oh, look what she's doing, she's so cool, I want to do that. And I'm like, no, I don't. I want to do what I'm doing. Because
Yeah.
I'm doing something really cool right now. And it means it's going to mean a lot to me. So, I know I sound like I've been overwhelmed, but I actually am like 80% better, I feel.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Becca, cool. Yeah. So, Becca, any kind of having sat with that for a second, any more clarity on like the deeper issue here, the deeper, or maybe the Brules?
I think I need to dig with it. The Brule part that came up for me is more about the like, oh, maybe it's this. Maybe it's like not valuing my own time and self-care enough to like that my own, like I can push that stuff aside to keep going, and that I should just like keep going as versus like slowing down and taking the time, whether it's to schedule or sit down with my schedule or like
so the Brule may
have
be that,
pauses
like,
throughout the day.
the Brule that might be that like planning is pointless or self-care is selfish. You know, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Self-care is selfish. That's a huge one. Or that planning is not worth it, or it's not worthwhile, obviously, because if you're not
Yeah, because I didn't have the Brule, but I did write down for the higher truth that like planning is the most important part of the day.
Yeah.
You know, just sort of flip it in that way. So,
yeah.
Thank you. That helps clarify.
Good. Awesome. Anyone else want to share? Oh, Shana, you're muted. There.
I'm just curious about the anxiety that, like, this is for the whole group. Like, when we aren't on task, like when you do make up a plan and you do take the time to plan in the morning or through the week, and your plan doesn't go as scheduled. I know Stephanie isn't here, but she's expressed this a few times, that we tend to feel really crappy about ourselves. It's like you set out something that you really want to do, and maybe your expectations are really high, or maybe it's just too much that you set out. And then at the end of the day, it's like, oh man, like I didn't get that accomplished, or I didn't get this accomplished. And then that's when you start to do that self-defeating talk. Right. So I just wanted to ask about that, or like, you feel, like you can feel anxious, or you can feel like, oh, like, yeah, that didn't go like I wanted it to go.
I think this is really where scoring yourself is very helpful, because you can, at the end of the week, scoring yourself gives you a measure of reality. And you can look at how the week went, everything that you planned. So this is assuming you're already planning, and then you're kind of planning is already a part of it, because planning happens before the scoring. You plan, you execute, the end of the week, you score. That's like those 3 steps. And then in the scoring process, you see, okay, first of all, did I execute on everything? And then if not, then the question becomes, in a very unbiased, non-judgmental way, like, why? Did I overschedule myself? And then the whole idea is that the scoring allows you to, then course correct for the next week and say, okay, based on what I learned from how I executed last week, what do I need to change to improve this week? So that there's always a continuous improvement. There's, the Kaizen practice of small continuous improvements every week, and we learn from our mistakes, so we're not repeating the mistakes and like being stuck in the same patterns and going around in circles every week and feeling bad and then doing it again and then feeling bad and then doing it again. So it's all data. Like, we just want to look at whether we fail or we win as data. Like, what did I do right, or what did I do wrong, and what do I need to do to change that? And do I know what I need to do? And if I don't know what I need to do, where can I learn that?
Like, sounds like we have to take off. It's like little bite size, because at the beginning, if you're doing all of that planning and then all that data entry, then it's just, you can't be doing 20 other things. Like, that data entry takes time, right? So,
yeah.
Like, all that takes time. So it's like,
it takes time.
Kind of bring it all in, and like not having, like, taking on too much. So it's just like the 3 things.
Well, I mean, it's like we don't know, like, until we try something. And then it's this idea of always be experimenting. Like that should be the MO, like all A, B, E, always be experimenting. So everything is just an experiment. It's simply a way to try something, look back. Reflection part of it is really, really important. And then from that reflection, we can see, did it work? Did it not work? Or what do I need to do differently? What do I need to change? If it did work, great. Okay, how can I then raise the bar a little bit? And so it's just a matter of, okay, I'm going to plan my week, and I'm going to see how it goes and see if I actually managed. And it's not going to, it's messy, and some weeks we'll do good and some weeks we won't. And then but it's a matter of just looking back and seeing and just using it as an opportunity for learning about ourselves and about like what works and what doesn't. And that's it. And so like the anxiety part, it doesn't need to be a part of it. It's just a matter of like, if we take the perspective of that, it's all an experiment, it takes the pressure off a little bit. And so we don't have to make it. And then, because then it can turn into a whole Brule of like, this means I'm not, focused, because I know, that can be one for you, like I'm not focused, or, I tend to get overwhelmed. And then it turns into a whole identity, and our whole identity revolves around like what we can't accomplish, which is just silly.
Yeah, totally. Does that help for you, Becca?
What helped for me is when you said that about the anxiety, I was like, oh no, that's not the problem for me. Like, I'm one of the most laid back people I know, like whatever, just change it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But what flashed for me when you said that was that maybe my deeper truth is that I can't trust myself to stick to my schedule. And like that seemed really real. I don't know what that means really, but that came up, and I'm going to play with that this week.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think and again, it's like we look at our past and we're like, I never was able to stick to my schedule in the past, so that's just who I am. And if we hold on to that identity, then there's no hope for it ever being different. But then if we just see like, why did I not stick with it? Obviously there was something wrong in the system. Like the system has to change. Like I either, I didn't time block, and we're going to learn a lot of different systems for using time, like just to use that example. Like I didn't time block. I didn't, I was distracted. I didn't plan. I didn't, whatever. So yeah. Anyone else? Andrea.
Like mine is just ugly. Like I'm a reactive person, and
wait. I did this with Shauna. So again, it's like you have that identity. I'm a reactive person. Like you're never going to change as long as you hold on to that identity of I'm a reactive person, because that's who you think you are. Like I'm a reactive person, so that's just who I am. And so your habit, and this is James Clear, he talks about, our identity is what is in charge of all our behaviors. Our behaviors are a reflection of the person we see ourselves to be. So your behaviors are going to reflect the person you think you are, which is someone who's reactive.
Okay, so what do I tell myself instead? And I don't think I'm only reactive in the home. I work with little children all day. And
so you're not. So then it's like we can take that identity and actually challenge it and be like, actually, am I? And here you have an opportunity. Like if you're only reactive in your home and you're not in other places, so it doesn't mean you're reactive. It's just you've somehow given yourself permission to be reactive at home.
I think I'm realizing that I am someone who's supremely organized and achieves a bazillion things a day. And I'm probably anxious a little too, like Shauna, like I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to slow down. And I'm married to someone who's my opposite, who knows how to take care of his needs, who knows how to take care of the fun for himself. And he's been away for 3 days on a wonderful personal holiday. And then when it has been out now, then went to 2 hockey games immediately after that. And I was trying so hard to have an optimistic mindset and be so happy for him. But eventually I got so worn down and so resentful. And I think this month, maybe that's my problem, is I let the stuff fester. I think I'm dealing with it, but I just start henpecking, and I hate myself for it. I just start henpecking,
again,
you know? And
I just want to jump in for a sec, because you, in that story that you just told us, there was a lot of I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. So again, a lot of, and I just want you to start to catch yourself in your own rules of your own like identity, because you're not that. It's just you have certain behaviors that can change, because we can all change. And right now you just have a few behaviors that are connected to maybe like a system that needs to change, like the deeper system needs to change, like a system of like not communicating maybe, or not setting boundaries, or something in there is perpetuating the pattern. And so it's actually looking at, it's not you, it's not like your identity. It's like, what is the deeper truth? Like, what's the naked truth there? Like, are you not communicating? Are you not asking?
I'm not saying no clearly. And I need to say no to my husband clearly, because he's an optimist. He's going to try. He's going to try to go out. He's going to try to do fun things for himself. And then I'm like, I'll think once again, I should be more laid back. I should be this. That is a Brule, I guess. I should be supportive. Yeah. But then, so I'll say yes. And I'm like, hell, I'm so exhausted. I'm working. I'm putting these kids to bed alone again. Doesn't he want to hang out with us? I should have just said no, and he probably would have been fine. So that's one of my problems. I can't say no. And I think sometimes, I let myself get overwhelmed by trying to do everything for everyone. So that's a problem. And I know Fiona said I have to let, particularly my husband, fall on his face, like and fail. I have to let him fail. I always worry about the kids suffering when I want, I used to for years wake him up every morning because he couldn't get up. He just would press snooze and I'd get him out of bed. So Fiona said, well, just stop it. Tell him he can be late for work and don't go in there. And you know what? He's gotten himself up every single bloody morning, every single morning. So I think that's a problem, is I'm probably a little bit, I can be a control freak, or I control because of anxiety. And then he's so laid back. He's like the youngest kid in his family, and he's going to let me do everything for him if I'm going to do it for him. Yeah. So could that just be the problem? And then
it sounds to me like there's a community, a communication issue.
I think you're right.
I think it's a matter of like you like sitting down and expressing like what you need, what you want, what's going on, and where you need support, and what's not working, and maybe actually just putting it all out there on the table and having a conversation about that, and seeing okay, what he thinks of all this too. Because my sense is, and I definitely was in this pattern before of just being totally passive aggressive all the time, and just expecting my husband to like know exactly what was going on in my head, which is ridiculous. And I mean, we just don't, fair, and like the male standards for the male.
Sorry,
but then, like just think differently, like, and often we just have to spell things out for men. It's like it's pretty black and white, and women are just like get it all in their heads and all like make it mean something too often. Like this means I'm like this, and this means you're like that, and then I had one teacher say, running around in your head is a bad neighborhood, or something like that.
You're in the ghetto.
Taking a walk in your head is you're in a bad neighborhood. So, yeah. So it's like, look at the system. Like, and so Vishen Lakhiani, he talks about models of reality and systems of living. So the models of reality are our belief systems. It's the Brules. And the systems of living are our habits, our behaviors, our routines. It's how we actually engage in the world. It's our patterns, our tendencies of engaging. So it doesn't have to, like, we project all the identity, all that is made up. So you make up, I'm reactive, I'm anxious, I'm controlling. You make that up. you can also decide, actually, no, I'm not, or I can be someone different. And it's just more, can I look at the situation, and this takes some of the emotional charge out of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And can I just look at like, where's the kink in the hose, or like, where's the problem? Where's the block in the actual system that needs to be changed? And then maybe you won't be reactive, maybe you won't be controlling, maybe all that stuff will just dissipate because things will be running more smoothly.
Well, this is already like opening a floodgate for
Awesome.
me of answers. Like, I think I feel guilty saying no. I think I want to be a good person, and
that's all
myself
Brules.
into doing things, and then I totally freak out because I'm overwhelmed and I couldn't say no.
Right.
And
so a Brule is that like,
yeah.
I can't say no, or like that no will mean this, and like no means that I'll have a bad reaction. It'll create a bad reaction or something, you know.
All right, this is very helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anyone else want to play? Did someone raise their hand? Or no? No one else? Yeah, go ahead, Shauna.
I just wanted to say one thing about quickly about being reactive.
Yeah.
Perhaps, is because I can get like that too, and I've noticed. Just noticing what my body feels like before the event happens. So if like, you know, there's a situation happening and I'm starting to get like uneasy in my stomach, because it doesn't always happen, it happens both ways. It's a two-way street, like in the body and the mind, when we are telling ourselves things like, so you can like have the sensation, feel the sensation, and then lately I've been working on this, and I'll say it out loud, like I feel angry about how my sister talked to me like that, and then like I say it out loud so that I can actually identify the feeling, because a lot of times like we'll just push it down, and then it just goes down and down and down and down, and then it erupts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a big piece, because it's not just like floating around in our heads. It starts as a sensation.
Yeah.
And then it comes up to the head.
Totally. And the sensation, we also put meaning on that. And so in one of the webinars, I can't remember which one, I talk about how you can actually transform anxiety into excitement.
Oh, totally.
And
yeah.
Like that nervous energy has the same sensation. Yeah. It can either be interpreted as anxiety or it can be interpreted as excitement. So you want to choose like the more empowering meaning that you're giving it. So I think I talked about this last year when I was skiing. So I'm a total beginner skier, and I had that kind of excitement, and I could say, oh, I'm totally anxious, or I could say I'm totally excited. And actually by saying I'm excited, this is from a book and I can't remember which one, by actually saying I'm excited totally changes things. And this is very much goes along with what's her name talks about stress, befriend stress, Kelly McGonigal. And she did a TED talk on how stress is actually not bad for you. It's if you think it's bad for you.
It's your perception of it.
Yeah. It's if you think that stress is going to be harmful for your health, then you will have bad physical symptoms as a result of your stress. If you think stress is not a problem, and stress gives you energy, and stress is motivating, and stress is just part of like your job, or not part of a job, but just part of like, this is a part of like doing a lot in the world is there's stress, and there's nothing inherently bad about it. Like those people did not have the bad symptoms. Like it didn't have a harmful effect on their health. So this is all just the same thing of, it's all a matter of how we choose to perceive things.
Yeah, I know. I just wrote an essay on pain, and it's the same thing actually, because there's no actually area in your brain for pain, and pain is just an output. So like we get the signal, and it depends on how we perceive it. Yeah,
Interesting.
Really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So that's like you depends if you've been through something before. And there's this guy who's walking through the woods. He had a stick hit his leg, and he thought, oh, that was nothing. He thought it was just a stick, but it was actually a snake that had bit him, and he kind of passed it off. He was like, oh, like that's just a stick. I don't need to do anything about it. And then he almost died from the snake bite. And then And then he went walking in the woods like years later, and a stick hit him, and the pain signals just erupted. And because he'd been there before, so it's like something that he had been through before, so he felt the pain deeply, and he was screaming in agony, even though it was just a stick. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It was just his perception, because he'd been there before.
Yeah.
That experience. So that kind of goes along with that rule. Like, if you've been there in your life, it's like you've been
right. Yeah,
in reactive situations, then you are more likely to go there.
Yeah.
And there's that, like, saying neurons that fire together wire together.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just something to put in there. Like, but you're saying, and I like what you're saying, is that you stop yourself. Like, you have been there before, you've been there lots, and maybe you keep reacting and you keep doing the same thing. But if you stop it, like, and say, if I stop saying, I'm so frazzled all the time, or I'm overwhelmed, like, then I'm just perpetuating it.
Yeah.
Telling myself that story.
Totally.
Yeah, I see what
I think this happens a lot with relationships. It's like people think that relationships are, people that kind of keep repeating the same thing in relationships and keep kind of having the same problems, and then they start to kind of look for those problems too. It's people that just, they seek out repeating the pattern because they've identified with that pattern so much. So they find like the same kind of people to repeat that same pattern with. And so it's actually just being able to like see beyond our own bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just reading the comments real quick. Yeah. So we want to take full responsibility for our actions. Like it's getting out of the victim mindset is really, really important, and seeing, okay, how am I contributing to this? So where we, just taking Andrea's example of like my husband, he has no problem, like taking care of himself, and that's awesome. And so then it's you. So taking full responsibility, like, okay, what are you doing to perpetuate the pattern? And, we often, we see what that is. And so then it's a matter of, okay, what do I need to do differently? This means I have to be somebody different. And so we have to take on that new identity. And so we decide who we are becoming. I'm becoming the kind of person who says no, or takes a stand for what I need, or asks for help, or whatever it is. And that is really, really hard to do, because it's really, really easy. There's already, the groove, the samskara, the pattern it's like the pothole. We'll keep getting stuck in that. So to like avoid that pothole, it takes mindfulness. It takes like that, to be extra attentive and to slow actually down, so that we can start to catch ourselves in that pattern, or even like right before the pattern, before we head down the same road that we've head down before. Say, okay, what's happening here? If we can just step back and gain perspective and see, okay, what's the system that I've created or that I'm stuck in, and then what needs to change, or what do I need to, how can I try a little experiment and do something a little bit differently, and then see what happens, and then gather data. And then based on that data, okay, did that work? Did it not work? And then how can I then do it again? All right. So nice. Cool. New vision, new reality. Awesome. Yeah. So this is like really, really important foundational work before we can move forward. There's, because I was talking about the stories when I was in Bali, and one of the stories, Hanuman, the monkey god, he's known for being in devotion to Dharma. Like he's in devotion to Rama, who's basically there to uphold Dharma. And so one of the ways that he gets pulled back is there's a lion demon that basically eats people's shadows, and that's how he takes them down. And so he starts to eat Hanuman's shadow, and then he's like being dragged back, and he can't move forward because this lion demon has his shadow, and the only way to go forward is to go into the shadow, and then he is released. And it's basically this idea that we have to be willing to like go into like the darker parts of ourselves where we're kind of unconscious of, and this is part of like telling your story and identifying our Brules and seeing our own limiting beliefs, because we won't be able to move forward. So this, like, we really have to start to notice all these stories we have, all these in these areas that we're stuck. Where do I have an identity, an old identity? Where do I have an outdated belief? Where do I have a Brule? And then how can I start to challenge that? And then see what, how can I create a new one? Who do I want to become? And then how can I start to create these little experiments to start to do things a little bit differently? And then we see that we're incredibly malleable people, and our identities are malleable, our beliefs are malleable, we're malleable. And then things start to change really rapidly. And be willing to make those little experiments. And that means stepping out of the comfort zone and doing those scary things and taking those giant leaps of faith and risks. But that is an absolute requirement for doing your Dharma. So get comfortable and get used to it. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Seriously, if that's like, and I can't remember who, I think it's Audrey Hepburn or someone said, like, do something every day that scares you. And it's these little ways, like, how can you just practice being uncomfortable, practice like saying no when it's so hard to say no, or any way that you can. And I was listening to a podcast with Danielle Laporte, and she was saying how she still kind of beats herself up, and she still has, all these issues. So it's not to say that things will ever get any easier. Like saying no will never get any easier, or doing the hard things will never get any easier, or like stepping out of that comfort zone. But we'll just get used to being in that uncomfortable place. So yeah.
I've also heard this is similar, like if it doesn't get easier, it almost gets harder because you want to do the deeper work. And so you dive even further into it. Right.
You take bigger risks and you make bigger experiments where the stakes are higher. So yeah, so it would make sense that it would be even more uncomfortable and more scary. But yeah, the thing that from last week is, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. So we just have to make sure we're so strong. And this ties back to having, the simplicity of our daily routines builds a strong container for us to be able to be willing to go out into the world and take those scary risks. You see this with all these people, that they have a very simple system of living in their home life, a very like to the T routine that they follow. So there is those things are taken care of, so they can go out and make those big decisions and, take those big risks. So yes. So just start to pay attention to your words. And so matrika is the Sanskrit word for the power of speech. And I love that word because did I talk about matrika last week already? No. I might have talked about it, if you've heard me talk about it before in Align and Thrive, but it's made up of two words, mata, which means mother, and suffix ika means little. So it translates as little mothers. And it's called little mothers because it gives birth to our reality. So our words birth our reality. So we start to listen to how we're speaking, like I was trying to show Andrea, like how she was saying, because we're not even aware that we say certain things that reflect our own identity and our own beliefs. So start to really listen to especially in those times when you're complaining, or when things aren't going wrong, or even if it's the inner dialogue. And then, and getting like the word busy, totally, I know, taking those certain things just out of the vocabulary. because again, it just becomes like, I'm busy. It becomes a whole identity. I'm a busy person, a whole belief system. Yeah, Becca, did you have a comment in there?
Oh, sorry. I do have a comment, but when you're done,
Yeah.
but I was just.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then. Well, just about the power of words. So one thing from my grandfather's book that has always stuck with me is that he talks about what he calls his boomerang theory, where like whatever you throw out there is what comes back at you, and that the universe doesn't hear the negative qualifications, like I don't want to embarrass myself, or I don't want to make this person angry. And so he talks about like throwing out there and operating from what you do want. So like, I want to have fun doing this, or I want to be confident when I do this, or I want to be clear with this person, or I want to have a good relationship with this person after this conversation, whatever it is. And that when you operate from that place, that like the universe hears it differently and you act differently because of what you're throwing out there.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it comes back to just being very like more proactive as opposed to reactive, of deciding like who you want to be, how you want to show up, what you want, and yeah, putting those intentions out there, and instead of like what you don't want, or kind of defaulting to the old reactive patterns. Yeah, I love that. Being intentional. So the circle that we wrote in the beginning, like everything in that circle are things that you are taking a stand for. Like, and this teacher Pam, that she says like these are the things that you're a yes for in your life. Like you're a yes for health, you're a yes for family, you're a yes. So that being said, if you're a yes for all those things, like you need to display that. So in your interactions, or say, you know, if you're having a conflict, if you're a yes for, you know, family, then that's gonna mean you're gonna be different in that situation. You're going to, I'm not saying this very well, but you might show up a little bit differently. So getting really clear, and this is also tied, you know, we can tie this to our values too, like what you take a stand for, what you're a yes for, what you want more of. And then you take a stand for those in your daily reactions and in your daily choices and in all those daily decisions and things that you engage in. So, yeah. So then the next few weeks, really take some time with the Brules and telling your story. And even like while you're telling your story, you can start to identify maybe where some of those Brules came from. Like if it is something from like a childhood indoctrination or an authority figure in your life, or some past experience that you put meaning on, or like other social, you know, other people, the social contagion. And so that we can start to be able to identify them. And so they can't, like she says, they can't take you from behind. So we can start to uproot those old patterns and then move forward with that sense of clear direction. So I'd love to also ask how the mastermind groups are going. Have you guys been meeting? Or have you had at least one meeting? Yes, 2? Awesome. Both groups? Andrea?
I had to miss the last one, but I know Olive could probably say more. Olive and Shauna and Linda, right? Did you, the 3 of you meet?
Yeah.
Last week?
Okay, cool.
And we all met the week before.
Okay, good.
You know what I mean? The other time.
Awesome. Cool. And so how are those going? Are they helpful, or do you feel like the flow of them is working well? Do you guys need any kind of direction or anything there? Or you feel like it's going well and it's working? Anyone want to? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's generally working. I think we sometimes spend a little bit of time wondering what we should talk about, and then we always find things to talk about. But I know you have your little guide, but sometimes we even within that flounder a little bit. I think at one point I'd love to talk about the book that we're reading when we get a little further into it, but maybe if you have other questions or guidance or suggestions for us as we go into it of what we might talk about that week.
Yeah, and I think it'll be particularly helpful and useful when we actually have goals that we're working on. So it can be like an accountability check-in, like, okay, what are you working on this week? How did it go? What are you working on next week? And that kind of thing. So, and because we haven't really created goals yet, yes, it can, I guess, be a little bit amorphous.
Yeah. We did create a Google Doc that we share with each other that we list our goals in and try to look at.
I guess there have been goals of all the body habits. So that can be something, and just, how things are going, what you're working on, what's working, what's not, where you might need some kind of troubleshooting or some reflection on.
I just had a thought, just looking at the faces that we don't get to see that are in the other group. I'd love it if anybody has had like a particular insight that jumped out at you during a mastermind that you want to share with the full group so that we can support each other's learning. I'm not thinking of a specific example from ours right now, but I know we've had them.
Yeah, totally. That's a great idea, because that can be helpful for everyone, because if it's something that relates to the course material that was in discussion. Does anyone have anything that came up in the meetings that can be applicable to or helpful to the whole group? No? Well, if it ever does, share it. You can share it on our Facebook forum, or we share it at our meeting. Yeah, cool. Yeah, Shauna.
I just noticed that with our mastermind group, we've been really good at doing an email thread. And then I thought, oh, I'm not sharing this on Facebook and something.
Oh yeah, you guys should do that.
Yeah. So, then there's just a lot of typing too, right? Like but I know.
Just move the conversation there, so it's not,
I could copy and paste.
or just, like end it there and move it on there. So it's not you don't need to have it in two places, but.
Yeah. No, I was thinking that because I kind of did tell a little bit of my story a little bit through the email. Just felt what's the word, like inclined to like something. I missed the last mastermind. I couldn't attend it, but I know we've been really good at sharing through email and on just, I would think sharing on Facebook too. I'll do that because I feel like what Becca said is like the rest of the group we don't get to connect with as much.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's all. Okay, bye.
So 2 announcements. Annie, who was she was supposed to do the guest appearance last time. It's now going to be December 7th. And also, if you are local or if you're around Kelowna, there will be a holiday potluck on the December 15th. So I'm trying to get the same space that we had for our last day retreat. So hopefully, otherwise, yeah, well, I'll find a space. So if you just save the date, it's a Friday. It's going to be like the whole like Align and Thrive, Empowered Living, and Do Your Dharma. So it'll be bringing together like the bigger community, which will be fun to. And some of you have, done Align and Thrive. And Olive, go ahead.
Will that be like during the day or in the evening?
In the evening. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I would love if you guys could share your one takeaway from today's call. If everyone just wants to, you can just unmute yourself and share. It could be an actionable step that you're going to take, or an insight that you had, or anything like that. So go ahead. Okay. Madeline. Okay, I'll call Madeline.
I've been just kind of listening and sitting back, and I identified some really couple of strong Brules, And so my action steps were to be more financially super responsible and less emotionally super responsible for other people.
What do you mean by super responsible?
Oh, well, you know, the situation that, well, a couple of them came up where I take responsibility for other people's emotions. Like, and so just an example, my husband has a pretty, I won't get into detail now, high pressure job. And because of just his nature, which I really like, actually, he'll come home and he'll just talk about it and vent, and I take on this role. I give it meaning that it shouldn't be happening. I've written it down here because I need to make it better. Causes conflict. Somehow it means something is wrong. So I compensate to keep everything peaceful. I'm a peacemaker, and I'm a peacemaker in my family, and I'm the one that everybody comes to. So it's like I'm taking responsibility for other people's stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And the higher truth, everybody is responsible for themselves. That's actually what I really loved about him when I met him, because it's just, he is who he is.
Right.
And it actually doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So for me to step back in that department is going to be work, but it's something that it's going to be good for everybody.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's my takeaway.
Nice. Good. It's a good one. And I'm just going to call on everyone so we can just all Olive.
Oops. My biggest takeaway, I think, is to look at steps out of my comfort zone as little experiments. Because I always go through this kind of self-doubt, I'm not as good enough as somebody else and that kind of thing. So just have that courage to just make the big leap and do an experiment, just kind of challenge myself. So I'm going to reread my Tell My Story, which I did a while ago, because I really enjoyed it when I did it. So I'm going to reread that and kind of look for some patterns and things like that too.
Nice. Awesome. And Andrea.
So actually, after this, my husband and I are meeting.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Laughing. We're meeting to have a chat about, I think, it was thanks to Fiona, my sister now, and she said, maybe we just need to draft like a bit of a contract or talk about what we think is appropriate for going out, and how many times a week you go out, with exceptions, of course. And also just trying to communicate more clearly. I think sometimes I don't know how I'm feeling exactly, and I judge my own emotions, and that's why I have hesitant yeses or resentful yeses, because I think, what is the big deal? Why are you not letting this person do this? I need to just accept that I don't feel I feel tired, and that's okay, and I can say, no, don't go out, I need help tonight, or whatever it might be. So I will stop thinking of myself as a reactive person and look for that higher truth there.
Awesome. And I don't know if I mentioned this in this course yet or not, but Brene Brown also says in those situations with other people is like taking responsibility for your own feelings and saying, the story that I'm telling myself is, did I talk about that here? No. Okay. So because we might project, like your husband's doing something and then you think that means something. Mm-hmm. And then we make this whole internal story about it. But instead, like telling him, the story that I'm telling myself is that you are this way, or that you think this, and then that is taking full responsibility for the meaning that you're putting on it. And then it gives him also a chance to tell his, like, what's really going on with him, and open up the lines of communication, so that there can be like, no, you're not like putting it on him. There's no blaming.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Farron.
There we go. And the Brules thing, I read that chapter a couple of weeks ago, and it just sitting here, the Brule that came to me was well, when I was trying to get on the computer and stuff today, the computer went dead, and then this happened and that happened, and I could have got really frustrated, and all sorts of different things could have went through my mind, but it was just kind of like, okay, it's just, you know what, that failed, try this, that failed, try this, that failed, try this, instead of like getting overwhelmed by the failure, look at it as an opportunity to keep going.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, that, and I've been itchy lately, and I just had the epiphany. It's like I need to probably eat pitta pacifying foods.
Yeah, or more, it's also the dry season.
Yep.
So there's a lot more dryness. Yeah. So more oil, like more internal, external oil, like oiling your skin, having more like fats, good fats in your diet. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. And Shauna?
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to take home the data. That really was big for me. Was doing a lot more documenting about kind of what's working and what's not working. Instead of like just, I think that will help me definitely.
Yeah, and it could be, how we talked about the end of the day wins, like writing your wins. It could also be a matter of like, okay, what didn't work? And then why, like, what could I maybe do differently next time? Like just a simple matter of, okay, using the data of what didn't work, and then.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to, I'm finished my craniosacral course next week on November 19th. It's totally done and I graduate.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to spend a lot of time on the material that you've put forth, because I haven't really done a lot of the paperwork, but I'm really excited to get into it.
Awesome.
Good.
Okay.
Thanks.
And Fiona.
I guess what I've been thinking about is, because I've done this before and read that book, is that when it was Halloween, I always seem to binge on Halloween candy, and I binged once, and then the next day I used just that positive talk. I said to myself that I am a healthy eater, and I haven't touched it since.
Nice.
And it was really helpful to me. So I'm kind of thinking, because I love food, I'm passionate about food and wine and everything like that, and I'm a good girl during the week, but the weekend comes and I can go a bit wild. So I'm trying to think of maybe a positive thing to say to myself, to kind of like, I am a moderate person. So like kind of think of like a good thing. So I think that's going to be my goal.
I would also, and like moderate leaves a lot of room for ambiguity. So if sometimes we have to get very specific too, and this goes for anything that we want to do, any change that we want to make. Being very, very specific with the behavior is absolutely like necessary, because then you know where to draw the line. Because moderate, like, what does that really mean? So if you're talking about like glasses of wine, like I have 2 glasses of wine, or I have 1 glass of wine, or whatever that number is, like decide what that number is for you. And then when you're there and when you're not. Because moderate, it's just too much room for leeway. Yeah. And so, what is that? Because like you have to really outline what that means for you. Like what moderate means for you, whether it's the food or the drink, or because it needs to be more specific.
I agree. So I think that's kind of what I'm gonna think about.
And experiment too. Like it can be like, I'm gonna experiment with this. I'm gonna experiment with moderate means 2 glasses of wine and whatever, and then see how you feel after. If that felt good, if that felt right, or if you need to change it next week and try a new experiment, and then.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I just have to try one of those. So yeah. That's cool. The plan.
Good. And Becca?
A few things are stirring, but I think this question of what's the deeper meaning or story behind something that I'm saying, and also sort of noticing when I have a resistance to something to ask myself that question. Like Shauna, when you said, I think I'm going to look at the data, like that's really exciting. I was like, oh God, no, like I don't have time to write down data. I don't want to have another thing I have to do. But at the same time, when I like paused, I was like, that could be really powerful. So anyway, just to like remember to slow down and check in.
Yeah.
Why I'm getting that resistance.
It does require slowing down. Like the planning, the reflection, that requires stopping. It's like taking time out from the rush of our lives and all that. It's because it's actually not taking action on anything. It's just planning and looking back on what we've already done. And so it can feel like I just have to keep moving forward. But the problem is we can be so much more efficient if we don't keep making the same mistakes, and if we get really clear on what we need to be working on. And then we move so much faster. So it does really shorten the distance from A to B rather than like taking more time up. So.
And one last thing I just remembered as we were mentioning Brene Brown, she does mention my grandfather once in her Daring Greatly book, some of his research that he did on humiliation. So I forgot about that until we were talking about her again.
So is it just that one book that he wrote, or has he written many books?
He wrote more, like he was a psychologist in community psychology and various things. And so he has more academic things that he had published, but that's sort of his one public facing book.
Cool.
Unfortunately, he passed away in 2007, about 6 years after it came out. So he didn't have a lot of time for more, but it's a great one. I always say it's not a page turner, but it's a life changer.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. And I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Have a good few weeks. Bye.